Let's get this, Jack.
We're live.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Well, we'll do that later. Let's do this now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hurst, the legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Hall of Fame of America. As a matter of fact, Jack, isn't it America?
I'm Boxing Writers Association of America. You get it right, Mac. You know, you get it right 70% of the time. So you do pass. You would get your diploma as far as getting it correct.
Well, thank you. A C is better than a D, I guess. Jack, so we're live always on YouTube, our YouTube channel. We're live on Facebook at Mac Sports. We're also on Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook page. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch. We're on Instagram. We're also on Zodiac TV Global. So we're on a lot of different places as far as viewing. We're also on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify. We're all over the place. And, of course, we are on Northeast Streaming Sports, our homepage. And this, folks, is our Sunday edition of the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Sunday edition where we cover the week in sports, Jack, and we go over, for people that missed the show during the week or whatever, we talk about the biggest stories in sports. And today, folks, we have on coming on the show Robert Butler from SportsScope. Very great show over there. He's the commentator and host. We also have Anthony Servino scheduled to come in. He's a fantasy football expert / NFL analyst, where he'll be talking about the NFL with us, Jack. So you're still down in Florida. I see that the curtains are open. How's the weather down there, Jack?
Weather was actually chilly for Florida yesterday, like high as 71. Okay, I went out, I sat outside at a Cheesecake Factory, and I was actually a little chilly in my polo shirt over there. But, you know, I'll be here a few more weeks, and then it's back to New York. And, you know, I have family taking over the house. I hope the house in New York is in good shape when I come back. They're responsible. They'll leave it in good shape for me.
Excellent. And up here in Connecticut, it's okay. It's windy, you know, as it always is where I'm at anyway. It seems like the wind never stops. And, of course, always busy with the network and work and all that good stuff. But
let me tell you something, Mac. I have here the TV, the cable carrier is different. So I'm hitting the voice control of the games, and I didn't even know I had the Major League Baseball package where I could see every Major League game. And it was amazing yesterday. All the games on, for some silly reason, I'm deciding to watch the Minnesota Twins against the Milwaukee Brewers. I tune in. It's the fourth inning. The inning ends. No one's gotten a hit yet. Both guys have no hitters. Of course, I can't switch to another game because you're like I am. You wait for someone to get a hit. They go into the seventh inning. Berrios, you know, Jose Berrios of the Twins and Burns of the White Sox, they have no hitters going, you know, the teams into the seventh inning. It didn't last. But when was the last time, you know, we saw that? Neither team got a hit entering the seventh inning. So, you know, the drama's unfolding.
Wow. That's crazy, Jack. So getting a little feedback through there, Jack, just to let you know. So let's let's get into the biggest, what we deem anyway, the biggest news of the week, and we'll start with March Madness. With the COVID, a lot of schedules were changed. The big teams were left out: the Duke, the Kentuckys, the Missouris, the Kansases that normally are in the March Madness and favored. As Baylor and Gonzaga square off now, they're going to be in the championship, Jack. Baylor ended up in the Final Four, routing Houston 78-54. UCLA almost upsets Gonzaga. Overtime, a half-court bank shot in with only seconds left. And Gonzaga pulls off the victory over UCLA, Jack.
Well, just a word about the Gonzaga win. Everyone was tweeting, from LeBron James to Patrick Mahomes to Drew Brees, saying how amazing the game was and all. And Gonzaga is being hailed for being, doing the smart thing, not calling a timeout at the end. That was a foolish thing. UCLA ties it up at 3.5 seconds. Call timeout, because how Gonzaga won the game. The ball was thrown into Suggs. He dribbled a little past midcourt and he threw up a bank shot, a poor percentage shot on the run that he's going to miss at least 8 out of 10 times, at least. Okay? And Gonzaga should have called a timeout to set up a shot with 3.5 seconds left, and they didn't do it, and they got lucky. And everyone's saying, well, what a good move it is. They didn't give UCLA a chance to get set. UCLA didn't need a chance to get set because it was a low percentage shot for Gonzaga that Suggs just happened to make a miracle shot. And you kind of wonder, Mac, it's not like the old days in basketball where players used to work on a bank shot. I don't think anyone works on a bank shot anymore, that they try to hit the backboard and get it in. I don't think anyone does it anymore. I think that's so outdated. And when it does happen like yesterday, I think it's purely luck. You heave the ball towards the basket in the direction, and he shot it a little further than maybe he wanted to, and it banked in, and we had a dramatic win. But I'm going to tell you, the emotions, that's what I wonder about. Baylor beats Houston easily. It wasn't an emotional game for them. They took care of business. They went back to their hotel room and they watched the Gonzaga game. They watched it at their hotel. They weren't even at the arena. And then Gonzaga wins such an emotional game to go to the finals. And Gonzaga is dominated all year long. They only had one previous game where they won in single digits. Every other win has been in double digits. Gonzaga got roughed up. Think of Gonzaga as a fighter who knocked everyone out, dominates fights, and now they win a split decision in which they just barely get through. What's their confidence level going to be for tomorrow night? Are they going to have that swagger, thinking that they're a dominant team, this is their time? Are they just happy to survive? Are they still going to be thinking of the game against UCLA? Because if they don't put that game behind them very quickly and focus on tomorrow night, it's not going to work in their favor, because Baylor's ready, Baylor's primed, and this is going to be a very tough challenge for Gonzaga for sure.
Well, Jack, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it the way you said, do they put it behind them? I think every team needs a wake-up. Gonzaga didn't get a wake-up all year, and it happened to be in the Final Four game. Now, this shows Gonzaga maybe that they can be beat, maybe makes them work a little harder, concentrate a little bit more, play more as a team, and overcome that much of a struggle. Could you imagine if it was Baylor they were having them struggle with? Baylor might have beat them, so maybe it's a good thing too, Jack.
Yeah, we sometimes, Mac, like to compare other sports, other situations, look for history that could be similar when a team has a letdown. And this reminds me a little bit of when the Oakland Raiders beat the Miami Dolphins back in the day after the Dolphins had won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Those were the 2 best teams by far. But the problem was they were meeting one game short of the AFC conference finals. And in an epic showdown, Oakland scores at the end to end Miami's reign as two-time Super Bowl champions. And they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers the next week. The Pittsburgh Steelers had yet to win a Super Bowl. We didn't know how good they were, but everyone thought the winner of the Dolphin-Raider game had their ticket punched to the Super Bowl. And the Raiders, after winning such an emotional, draining game against the Miami Dolphins, the next week were flat against the Steelers. They just couldn't get the emotions up. And they had a whole week to prepare. Now I'm just thinking, Gonzaga, they have 2 days to prepare. And I kind of wonder when they wake up this morning, if they haven't already woken up, are they going to be buzzing about last night's game? Are they going to be going on social media, seeing how wonderful they are? Because I'm just saying they've got to put this behind them. Celebrate after you win the NCAA tournament if you can. Then you look back fondly on this game. But when you have an epic game like last night, you want to hold on to it forever, Mac.
Yeah,
you don't go. You don't want to forget about it, but you have to kind of forget about it and look and focus on the next game and do it immediately.
I agree. And good morning to you, Keith. Thanks for joining us. We also got, Jack, opening day. Of course, they started on a couple of days ago with only one postponement, the Mets game, because of COVID. They've got to feel a lot better than last year about the MLB overall, about the shortened season because of COVID. Every fan, of course, feels like their team has a shot in this year's season, but it does not. I imagine when this wears off, this feeling of everybody going, we're halfway through, there's still some underlying problems with the Major League Baseball. We have the agreement coming up that they're going to have to agree on. You have teams paying record amounts of money for free agents. You have the smaller markets that can't pay these free agents this amount of money. And you know, at the bottom line here, Jack, Major League Baseball has got to start doing something to giving the smaller market teams, the Royals, the Orioles, even the Florida teams, which really don't draw that well, even though they do put together some good teams. They have to do something to kind of equal this out, because the way they revenue share is not the way the NFL revenue shares. I mean, it's not a total commitment to sharing the funds. And I think if they don't do this, you're going to be seeing, and mark my words, Jack, you're going to have small market teams combining with other teams, or you're going to have some of them folding up. It's bound to happen sooner or later.
I don't know. Do I totally agree with you? You talk about small market teams. Are we talking about what their finances are going to be, their net profit of the owners? Are we talking about the product they put on the field? Because if we're talking about the product they put on the field, and we use a small market team, Kansas City Royals as an example, they were the 2015 World Series champions. They beat the New York Mets, the San Diego Padres. Off the top of our head, we would think of them as a small market team. San Diego, not a big city. Look at the money they've laid out for Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado. They got Yu Darvish. They've got big ticket finance, expensive players they've gotten on their teams. And you look at the smaller market teams. Didn't the Tampa Bay Rays go to the World Series last year? I don't think competitive balance is being affected. I think a lot has to do with the farm system. Now, you take these small market teams, nothing stops them from developing a farm system, because it's cheap developing a farm system as opposed to paying for high-priced talent. Develop a good farm system the way the Marlins are doing right now, and your team takes gentle steps. But the problem is, once you get there to an elite level on the playing field, can you afford to hold on to your players? You can if you project early in the game, sign them to long-term contracts that aren't, outrageous, that are affordable. The Miami Marlins, where they went wrong years ago, they signed Giancarlo Stanton to this crazy, 13-year deal. And when Derek Jeter went there, they saw this doesn't pay for us. For him and some other players, because they were just going to have a good team, but they were losing a lot of money to franchise. It wasn't resulting in championships. But let me throw this by you too, Mac. If a team can win a world championship and they're not drawing the people and they're losing money, doesn't that tell you something if the fans aren't showing up that maybe that city shouldn't have a franchise? Maybe they should move. If you can't support an elite team, I can understand the people in Pittsburgh not packing them in for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are very mediocre. But you talk about some of these other small market teams, who are really playing well. The fans, once COVID is lifted, the restrictions, you would think they should show up.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point as far as maybe there shouldn't be baseball in certain parts of the country. But if you look, for instance, Jack, at some of the teams in the NFL that are in small markets, the reason why they can compete with the bigger teams is because all the revenue is split equally amongst the teams from the contracts and stuff like that. The Tennessee Titans, for example, the Carolina Panthers. These markets aren't as big as New York, big as Philadelphia, but they have a real good shot at going to the Super Bowl and signing agents as much as the other teams. Where baseball, Jack, even if you sign the younger players that are coming through your farm system, you got a star. Even if you bring them up and sign them to try to sign them to a contract, one, they're not going to sign a long deal contract with you with that agent because they know they're going to get more money if they go to the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever. So you can develop the players, you can bring them through your system. You could have that one good year like Kansas City had, or that Florida had, or that Tampa Bay had. You can have that one good season. But then you're going to fall right back off, Jack, because these players are going to go where the money is. And when you got somebody like the Mets, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like even the Padres, you say they're small market. I don't agree with that. When you're going to go to those and you're going to get multi-million deal contracts that are unbelievably player friendly, that Kansas City, that Baltimore cannot afford. And if they keep playing bad baseball, of course they're not going to draw anymore, Jack. I remember when the Kansas City Royals and the Baltimore Orioles drew very well because they put together a winner every year.
Mac, the city that has more fans should be allowed to have an advantage if they can use that advantage properly. Legally, within a certain framework. The New York Yankees have more fans than, let's say, the Seattle Mariners. So why should the Yankees sell out Yankee Stadium continuously and Seattle doesn't sell out their ballpark? Why should the Yankees split the profits with them? Something is unfair about that. Take the vendors in the ballparks, the ones who sell the hot dogs and the beer. If one vendor is working more efficiently than the other and taking in a lot more money, why should he be splitting his profits equally with all the other vendors? It's a free enterprise system. And like I said, if a city can't, maintain a team, the fans don't show up, there's not enthusiasm, then what's the difference? You're saying, someone else should be paying their expenses.
For the good, Jack, for the good of the game. All right, this is the problem with Major League Baseball. When you talk about football, it is about the league. It's not about the team. And that's why the NFL is so successful. They think about the league first, and then they handle the team second. Major League Baseball thinks about the team, their local popularity, they're regionally pumped. And this is why they cannot promote the game, Jack, because they don't split the revenue fairly. You got a guy named Mike Trout that's in California right now. And I'll tell you right now, he should be on the face of every Major League Baseball promotion, him and a few other guys. But he's not that way perceived by the MLB because he's not a Yankee or because he's not a Met. We don't, I mean, the only reason why we know about Mike Trout is because he's so great and he's done it for so long. There are a lot of star players out there right now that should be getting pumped across the nation. And that, in other words, Jack, you sit down and you watch the NFL game, whether the Jets are on or not, that's your favorite team. You sit down and you watch the Patriots play. You watch the Vikings play. Why? Because you know a lot about the Minnesota Vikings. You know a lot about the Pittsburgh Steelers because the league works together as one. Can you tell me who the starting shortstop is for the Milwaukee Brewers right now? I mean, you watch the game.
Yeah, I understand the point you're making, but Mike Trout's not on the cover of magazines because the Angels haven't won. The Angels haven't produced on the field. It was the same way with Ken Griffey Jr. when he was with Seattle. Had he been in New York, he would have been a megastar. I mean, we all know how great Ken Griffey Jr. was. Everyone acknowledged that. One of the all-time greats in modern baseball. But had he been in New York, had he been a Yankee, his stature would have went up because he'd been on a winning team. I mean, that's the syndrome. The Angels haven't won. They're the Los Angeles market, Mac. But you think of the Angels as a small market team, and they're not. They're in the major outlet, Los Angeles. All the Angels have to do is start winning and taking off, and Trout is on the cover of everywhere. People acknowledge he's the best player in baseball. We all know that. But
well, first, Jack, I don't think LA is a small market at all. I just talked about
obviously not.
I talked about the Milwaukee Brewers. I just talked about Milwaukee is a small market team. I know that there are some very good players in Milwaukee that I don't know. But I know there are some very good players that are on the Tennessee Titans that I do know. And the reason why I do know is because the league promotes their teams all together. They don't care what the Patriots draw in their local TV contracts. They don't care what the Giants draw in their local TV contracts. What they care about is the league. And that's what I'm trying to say, Jack. This is where Major League Baseball fails terribly because you have some great pitchers, young pitchers, you have some great young players, and people don't know about them because they're more concerned about, New York is more concerned about New York, which is fine. But there should be a way for baseball to promote the team as the league, with the teams, league first, team second, not the other way around. That's all I'm saying, Jack. So there you go.
Mac,
go
we're talked out on this.
I know we are. Excuse me. So we'll have Robert Butler doing in about another 8 minutes coming in. Any prediction on the Baylor-Gonzaga game, Jack?
I'm going to tell you, I mean, Gonzaga was a heavy favorite going in, but the biggest threat to Gonzaga was supposed to be Baylor all along. And here we are. And, you know, there's a saying in boxing that we judge fighters too much on their last fight. And we make a prediction on their upcoming fight in large part based on their last fight. We somehow fall into that trap. And if we're going to base it on the last game, what happened yesterday, and if you saw the two products, Baylor's product A, Gonzaga's product B, you'd like product A more because Baylor looked great. They dominated their game. They were never, you know, they were totally in control from beginning to end. And Gonzaga was in a dogfight. So, but I'm going to go on the whole body of work. And I'm going to go with Gonzaga to win the game, to finally put it together that their time has come. And they've never won the NCAA tournament before. So in a certain sense, they're sentimental favorite, which is unusual for a powerhouse team to be a sentimental favorite. Normally, it's the underdogs. I wonder what the odds are going to be. I haven't seen the latest, you know, the opening line on that. But I could see Baylor being favored by a point or something. There's probably a big money line on it.
It'll be close. Backstage right now, Jack, we have the host of Sports Scope, Robert Butler, coming in at a special time. And by the way, I forgot to say to everybody, Happy Easter. We're on today, as you know. We're going to go ahead and we are going to try to get Robert in and out because he got some business to take care of this morning. That's why we brought him in.
On it, Mac, you did it again. You didn't promote this show being on an Easter. People are assuming we're not on the air. We don't take a break, Mac. We didn't promote this. They probably say, "Oh no, it's Easter. They're not on."
Listen, Jack, why don't you promote the show for once? How about that? You promote it and say we'll be on Easter. You do that for me. I'm a busy man, Jack. They should know that I say we're here Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. It doesn't matter what day it is. So if you want to help me out, Jack, and promote the show, go right at it. Have at it. So, Robert.
Hey, guys.
How you doing? Happy Easter to you.
Thank you.
And we got some topics that I want to go over with you that I kind of send you to so you can kind of check it out. First, of course, I want to go with Deshaun Watson. It has changed now to a legal criminal investigation as a criminal complaint was filed. So this is a whole new avenue now, Robert. It's not the NFL may have to act sooner than maybe it wanted to because, before names were kept out, it was Jane Doe. Now we know who actually filed the report because it is public record. And I don't know, Robert. I mean, are we talking exemption? Are we talking suspension? Is the NFL going to take swift action? I would imagine it will speed it up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that they're going to do that exemption thing. I thought this was coming at some point, even if it wasn't going to be a criminal complaint. Now it's a criminal complaint. It seems like that they are going to go that route. Now, this morning, as of today, we still haven't heard anything from Roger Goodell, from the league office, no spokesperson, nothing. But if I'm Deshaun Watson, his lawyers, I'm biting my fingernails off, and I'm like, man, this is just. And somebody in the Boston, and I talked about this on my show about a week or two ago, from the Boston Globe, he said maybe he should simply rescind that trade demand to get part of the spotlight off of him right now. Because I wouldn't trade for him right now. And I'm sure other teams in the league, around the league, or all their security teams are looking at it because they don't want him to be on that exemption list for the whole season. Then his cap number goes way up from like $15 to $40 million. It's a mess right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, Robert, that again, the pressure from a civil case, which I kind of thought would end up criminal too, because there's just too many reports of this coming out. But when it becomes criminal, I mean, now the NFL has to do something. They can't just sit on their heels.
Yeah. I think they definitely have to do something, and swiftly. It kills me. Go ahead, Beck.
Rob, guys, if Deshaun Watson was in the good graces of the Houston Texan organization, let's say he never asked to be traded, you get the feeling it could make a difference because behind the scenes, the Houston Texan organization could be talking to the police department, and you get the feeling that would help. Like Deshaun Watson is someone who doesn't have a home base now. As far as an NFL team, you get the feeling the Texan organization couldn't care less about him. Okay, it's probably a bit personal with him wanting to leave. And where's his backing? He's getting no backing anywhere, one way or another. But you have to be very gentle with it because if he is guilty of these charges, obviously you're not going to condone that type of behavior. Okay, there's got to be some type of consequences. But we still don't know the whole story. Obviously his conduct left something to be desired at the very least. But did he do anything that would truly be criminal according to the law? We don't know that. There's just reports coming out. Rusty Hardin, who's the attorney for Deshaun Watson, was also the attorney for Roger Clemens. And even though he's supposed to be this high-profile attorney, the best in the business, he didn't impress me with the Clemens case. He had Roger Clemens speak to the accuser and tape him, and then went public with the tape. It was a cheap gimmick that backfired, got them nowhere. And now he's saying, there's one person who's trying to extort money from Deshaun Watson. Well, if 1 out of 23 is trying to extort it, that's a low percentage number. That doesn't impress me a great deal. And he's trying to wage a counter PR campaign, Rusty Hardin, and it's futile. I mean, so, but
Yeah.
at this point, I said I was going to reserve judgment. You can't help but feel Deshaun Watson acted in an inappropriate way. Let's put it that way. How inappropriate? That's the question.
Yeah, and I think it's the Texans in their defense. I mean, they got to walk gingerly. And this Me Too era, you don't say, "Well, we're 100% behind our guy. We believe that blah 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 that these are false." I mean, they would get heat on the other side. So I can understand why they're being very cautious and walking air quote gingerly with this situation. I don't know if any other team would act a different way, be honest with you, even if it wasn't the trade situation.
Yeah, I agree with that, Robert. I think that the team would say, let the investigation play out and blah, blah, blah if they said anything. So question for you. The Dodgers and Padres, the new New York Yankees, I mean, they stockpiling talent. Anybody that's eligible, they're picking up. So, I mean, a lot of people complained about the Yankees buying a World Series. I don't see anybody complaining about the Dodgers, or the Padres doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. I was looking up something. The Padres, during the trade deadline last year, made an aggressive move. There's a story out in sportco.com that says they didn't really have the money to do this stuff. Their revenue was so far down. They don't have the reserves of a Yankees or LA market and the Dodgers. But in 2019, their new park, the attendance was out of this world. I mean, over the top. So they're really gambling on this team being successful, taking advantage. So the fans read these stories and they come and support the team, you know. But they are being aggressive. And as fans of a smaller market, you can't do nothing but tip your hat. If the owners are not trying to just pocket all the money, they're really gambling that this team's going to be a winner. This Padre. And as far as LA, LA has been very conservative up until the Mookie Betts. They let a lot of guys go, you know. Yeah. So it's kind of a different situation. Now, a few years from now, these guys start stacking World Series. I think that narrative will change. People don't like teams to dominate, you know.
Corey Seager's a free agent next year. Let's see. Are they going to try to hold on to their own players? I mean, they held on to Justin Turner. It wasn't as big an investment as Corey Seager's going to be. But let's see. LA apparently is loaded. They have the money. They're flushed. They'll do everything they can to hold on to their guys and stay on top, for a while. So, I mean, I'm not complaining as a Yankee fan going back to the time when George Steinbrenner would sign all these free agents. I thought there was nothing the matter with it. I don't think there's anything the matter with it now. As fans, it's hard to be sympathetic to the owners. They don't want to go over the luxury tax. I can understand that. It's only the teams that really get rid of all their players, never re-sign anyone once they're making significant money. That's a frustration point. But some owners have the money. Steve Cohen's the most intriguing one, the Met owner, because he's worth $14 billion. This is a guy who can say, I'm willing to lose $1 billion to get my team over the top. He might figure, what's the difference? I have $14 billion or $13 billion. It's not going to change my lifestyle. And that makes him a dangerous owner because $1 billion means a bunch of, some real mega contracts for superstars if he wants to go that route.
I know it's not much, but I do like the fact that they did put that luxury tax in. I noticed the Yankees haven't won as much since they put that. So the luxury tax, the owners are feeling that. I mean, and since that luxury tax, remember we had the Royals win a World Series. You know, the White Sox, they're a bigger market, but teams you're not used to seeing win it have won it. I would like a hard cap in the league, but that's just me. But, I want to get everything like the NFL if it's up to me, but, Yeah,
I agree. But you got to realize Kansas City back in the 70s, when they weren't spending a lot of money, were winning World Series, or at least almost on the brink of doing that, Robert. I really believe that what's going to happen if things don't change, and I've been saying this for a while now, is you're going to have like maybe 5 super teams in each league that have all the money and all the players, And a lot of these guys are either going to combine teams to be able to pay for the money for these big draft picks, or they're going to just be some teams, some places that can't, support their team. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe there are teams out there, since Major League Baseball isn't going to do revenue sharing like the NFL. They have the luxury tax, but it's not the same. If they don't do that, maybe these teams should drop out. And I feel bad for the fans, but I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if you're going to have a team that finishes with, 100 losses every year or 90 losses every year, I mean, they're really not competitive. And a lot of these teams, even though they jump up once in a while, make a run, most times they're near the bottom. And it's just a shame to me. I don't know. So,
yeah. And they're slow to do everything, And I do like the fact that they changed that one rule at the start of the season where you got a guy on second base to start extra innings. I know Jack probably got annoyed by that. Yankees lost the opener, but they're so slow, but they're slowly coming around to speed the game up, keep teams competitive, shorten the season, and bring fans back. But it's it's like watching paint dry, man.
A lot of purists do not like changing the game at all, Robert. I mean, if you don't like baseball to them, then don't watch it. I mean, that's the way the game is. And when they start changing the game to affect the outcome of the game, then people really get upset. And I'll give you an example. It's the seventh inning. It's a double header. And you have the Yankees that have a lot of power and they're down by 1. You're going to tell me that you're not going to give them a couple chances more to tie the game up or to win the game? That's kind of unfair in a lot of people's minds. And I kind of agree with them in a way. There's other ways to speed the game up than actually put a runner on second so you can win the game. To me, you're changing the game itself. And I don't like that. But some people do. Some people
But the purists, they'll always – the studies say that the purists will always come back. They'll moan and groan, but they'll always come back. You're trying to win over younger generations. NFL has sped their game up. The other leagues have sped their games up,
I don't know about the NFL speeding its game up. The NFL games seem longer and longer to me with all these damn instant replays. So I don't know about that, Robert. But
they have no huddle offenses. The tempo of the game is sped up.
Maybe so. But I'll tell you right now, they have like 20 commercials per game now. So, Jack, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I enjoy one of these. Yeah, I kind of had to shut
F-bombs.
up. I took a little break. I kind of like this. One of our listeners, Crystal Swagler, Jack is correct. I don't think I've said anything for the last 10 minutes, but I'll take it. I mean, by just being quiet and not saying anything, that's the way to go. I'll let you two guys flow in your argument.
Jack, you're always correct. So,
Yeah, I mean, without saying anything. I mean, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Crystal.
That's right. The 17th game, speaking of the NFL, you segued right into it. We knew it was coming. The players kind of were fighting it for a while. Then they figured, well, there's more extra money. We have NFL on Thursday night. We have it on Sunday night. We have it on Monday night. Now we have an extra game. Everybody says that the NFL can do no wrong and all that. But I'm going to tell you guys, sometimes too much of anything starts being too much. And everybody's all high on this. You only can milk the cow till it goes dry. And I'm telling you right now, the thing special about football is you see it once a week, and it's a finality in the playoffs and Super Bowl. That's what was so special about football. You didn't see it every day. So you looked forward to it. You got ready for it. You were anxious. Now, it's on all the time. So what do you guys think? The 17th game, good idea, bad idea? And is there too much football on TV?
I know it's not been changed since 1978 as far as the games per season. There's talk about the records. People don't like change. People don't like change at all. But once change comes into effect, you adapt and you overcome. As far as the records, you just say, well, this person did it in 17 games. This other person did it in 16 games. It's very simple. The players are moan and groan until the checks get bigger. And, of course, physical issues. They're eventually going to have to expand the rosters and let players not hit much. Ask them not to hit much during practice. Like if you got an early bye week.
Robert, please.
Wait, guys. I'm a little confused about something. I mean, I love sports. I'm trying to watch as much as I reasonably can. I'm channel scanning yesterday, and football is going on. I'm seeing Deion Sanders up and down the sideline, for his Jackson State team. What the heck is college football going on? I thought it was over with.
Yeah.
I thought it was done with the national championship game. So what is this? Is this college football's version of the XFL, who tries to compete with the NFL? I mean, what the heck is going on?
Oh, that was spring games. Yeah, I never watched those things. I think that's ridiculous. But sorry, there was a little bit of delay here earlier. I didn't know if y'all was hearing me or I was going mute, but I was saying that I think teams they'll stop hitting later in the season in practice. And when they stop hitting later in season and practice, that's going to help the fatigue factor.
Robert, please. It's football. You got to hit. If they don't hit enough in practice as it is, now you're going to tell me they're going to hit less? I mean, no wonder they get injured all the time.
Wrong, Mac. I want new rules to protect the quarterback even more.
There you go. Why don't we
feel if you put a hand on the quarterback before he throws, it should be a flag.
It should be a touchdown. It should be a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Let's just make it flag football and get over with it, guys.
You guys are saying this, but teams don't do it now.
Robert,
the Rams don't do it during preseason.
Robert,
give that credit. Only for the quarterback, it's flag football. If you snatch his flag, it. That's counts as a sack.
I mean, we can sit around like they do on gaming shows and watch people play video games in the NFL. Maybe that will. I mean, listen, guys. Football's my love. I played it. I coached it. I was involved with it over 20 years. And I'm sick. I'm sick of the rule changes. I'm sick of not being able to touch a quarterback. I'm sick of them not hitting in practice. I'm sick, period. And if you're going to tell me they're going to stop hitting more in practice, and now we're going to give the quarterback a penalty if you breathe on him wrong or call him out a name, I'm going to quit watching football. I mean it. I am so tired. This is a game that is meant to be violent. It's meant to be hit hard. This is what they show on all the big plays. And now we just baby these guys and pay them millions of dollars because they don't feel like they're supported enough. Are you kidding me, guys? Really?
That's what the way of the game is going, where they're just less contact going down the stretch, the fatigue factor. Either that or you throw in another bye week.
No, I think, guys, it's the long-term effects that hits take on a player. Yep. The effects take place a lot of times 20, 30 years later, and it shortens their life. A lot of guys.
Listen, nobody's forcing them to play football, Jack. I'm tired of that too. If you don't want to get hurt, if you don't want to don't play football, don't play hockey, don't box. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't play. There's plenty of jobs out there. I work at a different job. You all work at different jobs. Don't do it. I mean, listen, this is what you sacrifice. If you want to do anything in life, you got to sacrifice. So we're going to tell these players, well, we know you might be hurt for the rest of your life, so don't play. And what do they say? They know it, Jack. They get in there. They know what happens. They see all the other NFL players. So what we're going to do is we're going to say to them, well,
Listen, if you left it up to the players, hockey players wouldn't be wearing helmets, a lot of them. They were laughed at in the beginning when they wore helmets.
Themselves, yeah.
Goaltenders were laughed at for wearing masks in the beginning. Baseball players, now obviously everyone will wear a helmet when they get up. But when they first introduced the helmet, players were considered wimps who would put it on. And football, helmet-to-helmet hits are dangerous. I mean, the sport is just as entertaining being safeguarded.
I'm not talking about.
I think there should be a new rule with the quarterback. The quarterback should never be allowed to deceive a defensive player. If they're running towards out of bounds, they shouldn't be allowed to then stay in bounds because the defensive player has to let up in how hard he hits them. So the quarterback shouldn't have the advantage of putting on a fake and staying in bounds. That's my feeling.
It's like sliding. You're giving yourself up if you do that. Yeah, that's something
Right,
that's
right.
what we talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think they should be able to hit the quarterback after he goes out of bounds.
Well, listen,
You want it to go back to the level.
you got to bring back Ben Davidson of the Oakland Raiders,
That's
Bill
right.
Romanowski of the Denver
There
Broncos.
you
Those
go.
guys lived on cheap shots.
There you go. Let's get football back.
Bring
Like
back
Bill
those guys.
Laimbeer. Mac liked Bill Laimbeer, the old NBA rules of the 80s and 90s, and Michael Jordan would cut the middle, and they would elbow a guy, try to, get him out of the game. It's, when Mac coached defense, and his goal was knock the quarterback out of the game. That's what I think. I have no evidence. That's what I think Mac did.
You can't prove Lambert ever elbowed him on purpose. It was by accident, Jack. The NBA. Let's talk a little bit about Atlanta, or I should say Georgia. The MLB decides it's not going to have the All-Star practice game show in Georgia. The NBA ratings went down 34% last year because of the political and social messaging. People tuned out big time. And here's baseball and his wisdom, sees that happened. They see the NBA is not doing as much social messaging as they did last year because the ratings dropped. And here comes MLB, and there's smart people over there, and they say, well, since you passed a law for voters' rights or non-voters' rights, or however you want to say it, we're not going to let you have the All-Star game over there. What is wrong with this MLB? What is wrong?
Man, I tell you, you need an ID to get will call tickets at any baseball game. You still need an ID in any major league sport, and that's all the bill asks for. And and you're right that the ratings went down 34%. They took that stuff off. They're creeping back up. I think history will say that when you start taking political sides like that you're only going to cut your audience in half. It's just best not to do it. It's not going to be like, well, we're on the right side, we're self-righteous, blah, blah, blah. They got to stop listening to these small groups. I guarantee you guys, they're not sports fans. These people, these activist groups are not sports fans. And I like what Barkley said about it last night. I don't know if y'all caught that. He said these politicians divide people and they divide classes and all that. Of course, he got heat from it, but it was on Twitter. And it's just it's a mess. I'm not even going to talk about it on my show. I'm not giving these people the satisfaction no more. But I think they will.
No, listen, guys, it's a very important issue with the voting rights. It's extremely important. My argument is this. If Major League Baseball is going to do it, go all the way with it. Say take away the All-Star game. It's I just feel that they're grandstanding in this particular issue. And who's really being hurt here? Because the All-Star game means a certain amount of revenue for the city. It means a certain amount of jobs. And listen, sports and politics do mix. And a case in point, it's going to be going as far back as 1980, where President Carter wouldn't allow our United States Olympic hockey team to go to Moscow because they had invaded Afghanistan. We've had boycotts, other things. But in this case with Major League Baseball, then contrast to the PGA. The PGA is holding their tournaments in Atlanta. If Atlanta is so bad, the way they're going about things, let them know that the NBA playoffs with the Atlanta Hawks can't be played in Atlanta. Tell the Atlanta Hawk basketball team they've got to play their games outside of Georgia for the rest of the season. The NBA. Let Major League Baseball tell the Braves you got to play outside of Georgia for this season. Just taking away the All-Star game, it's grandstanding to me, and I hate when you grandstand because it doesn't bring about meaningful change. It just makes Major League Baseball look good to care about social justice. So look at us. I mean, it's really token stuff what they're doing. and what they're doing at the end of the day is really hurting the city of Atlanta, because that's a great spectacle, the All-Star game, to have there.
Yeah, it is. And quite frankly, I noticed Delta Airlines, when they read the bill, they were okay with it. They were okay with it when they read the bill. And then when these activist groups came after them, then they said, no, we're against the bill. So they're phony, they're inauthentic. And quite frankly, if you look over this stuff, you need an ID to get tickets. You need an ID to get on the airline. You need an ID to vote. That's all it's saying. You can't bribe people for a vote. You can't have like some kind of campaign thing. So I got down into the sense of it. It's garbage, and the people know it's garbage. And it's driven by social media. These companies, Major League Baseball, they're looking at Twitter. It's 21% of the population's on Twitter, 4%'s active, and they've got people working for Delta and Major League Baseball that look at this and they say, "Oh my God, this is out. We got to do something." And once they find out that that's not your real audience, I think you'll start to see the reverse effect come into it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and this is the only thing I really have to say on that, because I don't like to talk about politics.
Oh, I know. I'm not bringing it up on my show.
But it does intertwine sometimes, and it does affect games. The only thing I want to say about this before we leave the topic, guys, and I know Robert's got to get out and go to church here in a minute, whatever he's doing. So whatever.
Yeah, they're opening back up. So I was hoping you could bring me in the first hour every week now. I mean, we're finally going back to church in person nowadays.
That's no problem.
You got it, guys.
Rob, you mean to tell me you delayed going to church to come on this show?
I zoomed in on church.
I mean, I think the priorities. Church would be a priority over there.
No, Mac and Jack are priority.
So, guys, the only thing I want to say about all this is one thing, and we go hiking for a reason. We read books for a reason. We watch movies for a reason. We go out to dinner for a reason. And the reason is to get away from the everyday grind and all the other issues that are on TV constantly, that you hear about in the news constantly. We try to get away from it for a while. And when it gets thrown in your face, whether you agree with it or not, it's up to you as a person. But when it gets thrown in your face, and if you're reading a book and all of a sudden on the next page you see some political statement, or you're watching a movie and a political statement comes on, if you're hiking down the trails and somebody comes up and starts talking to you about politics, that's not what it's about. Sports is about getting away from all that for a minute. Just taking a breath, watching some people do something that means absolutely nothing in life. I mean, it really doesn't mean nothing to nobody. It has nothing to do with eating, your necessities, anything. This is just something to get away. And this is what sports has always been, entertainment, and to root for teams and to become a kid again and have a good time. When that starts getting taken away, that's why people start tuning it off. And politics just should stay the heck out of sports, and that's all.
I think, guys, you may not agree with this. I don't think the team should not even go to the White House. I don't even think nobody should call. Well, you can congratulate a team on like a message or TV or social. I just want to as a president, blah blah blah. I want to graduate the 2009 19 X team for their tremendous Gonzaga. But I don't think they should even go, because it's always going to be a division there. I wouldn't even go. I
disagree. I disagree, because I think the White House is a historical landmark. No matter who is in the White House, whether you agree or disagree with their views, even if you can't stand the person, who's the president at the time, I think the White House is such a historical landmark that to deprive yourself the chance of actually visiting it, seeing it from the inside, I think you're depriving yourself in the long run. If you've been there already and you've seen it and you don't want to go back, that's one thing. But for the athletes who are never there, it's a great experience to view the White House. You're not there for the person who's holding the presidency, for the office. You're there for the White House itself to see, the historical landmark. That's at least my view on it.
Well,
Robert,
you can go in your own time, not as a team. That's what
there you go. Robert, I
I'm
agree with you 100%. There's the only this is the president grandstanding when he calls on live radio or live TV and says congratulations. I mean, you could do that privately. You don't have to go out on a total network and say, hey, congratulations, this is the president of the United States. They can go to the White House on their own time. I agree with that. To me, it's the same thing with what you said, Jack, right? They pulled back the Olympics because of this and the other thing. Right or wrong, I don't know. But to me, it should be kept far apart as possible. I mean, I think it should be that way because to me, it's supposed to be something like reading a book, as I said. You're away from reality for a while.
And you think about all those athletes from 1980 who earned the spot to compete in the Olympics, and they weren't allowed to go because the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. What does it mean now that the Soviets invaded Afghanistan? I mean, it's a blip right now in society, but those athletes missed the opportunity that they trained for, their whole life. But I don't mean to be hypocritical because at the time I saw merit to the boycott. I've come around. I've changed my views on these things. But we all have to learn from it going forward. But apparently we haven't, leagues, teams are boycotting things. I mean, what we need is serious discussion. Sit down, discuss how we could, improve things. And just canceling the All-Star game, there's got to, moving it out of Atlanta, there's got to be a better way. I mean, the city of Atlanta, I think, deserves a lot better.
Yeah, and tell Carlos, I went to school with Carlos, that those teams are leased out for other events rather than sports. So the city makes that money back for concerts and everything. But, hey, if these owners want to pay for those stadiums, I'm all up for that, too.
I'm with you 100%. There you go.
Sign me up,
There you go. There you go. I agree with you, too.
Well, the Atlanta Braves are going to get their revenge. They complained about the All-Star game being moved out of their home city. They're going to win the World Series this year. I'm telling you that now.
Well, they're
So
always
get their
got a lot of
revenge
games
that
to go.
way.
Yeah, well, they got a shot.
There you go.
Yes, they do. Hey, Robert, I want to thank you for coming in, and we enjoy your views and your commentary on sports and all issues that relate to sports. Have a great day. Happy Easter again, and we'll see you again same time next week, Robert.
Hey, happy Easter. Hey, enjoy that national championship game.
Who are you picking? Quick prediction.
I think Gonzaga, this is their year, man. This is their year.
Okay.
Maybe wrong, but
it should be a good one.
that's one of the best innings ever, right?
Yes, sir.
All
All right,
man.
have a great Easter. Take care.
See you guys.
Take care.
So there you go, Jack. Robert Butler giving us his comments on everything, and that's what I like about Robert. He says what's on his mind and means what he says, and I enjoy that in person, whether I agree with him or not. At least you know where the guy stands. You know what I mean? I hate people that say one thing and do another. So that's why I like having Robert.
Whoa. Is that a subtle dig at me, Mac, or what?
Never, Jack.
You never come out and say things directly.
Oh, Jack, I do. It's just I don't do it on the air. So, okay, folks, we're going to be right back after these messages with a lot more sports. Anthony Servino on the other side, and me and Jack will be covering everything big that's happening in sports. So give us a couple minutes, and we'll be right back.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., Facebook, YouTube, and even on Zodiac 4 out of 5 days, folks. So there's all the places that you can see us live. We'll also be on Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook Facebook page later on today, right after the show. That's where we share the show to the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook page. Also, which is a very, very excellent site where you have almost 18 shows now, Jack, over there on Northeast Streaming Sports. Happy to be on the network. Happy to see it doing so well and kind of taking off. And, Jack, you got a new fan out there, Crystal. Crystal.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there are a lot more that are coming out, I hope. But great, I appreciate Crystal's support today.
Yes. So,
I mean, Mac, maybe we'll see you rally and get some support, and we'll keep totals.
The only people that support me, and I got a big echo, Jack. Big echo over there. The only people that support me, Jack, are crazy men like me. You know that still believe in certain things that probably are going by the wayside. But that's okay. I'm gonna say what's on my mind anyway.
I'll tell you, you're talking about all the shows, Mac. I mean, you watch them all actually on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, or what?
Definitely. They're to me, it gives a wide variety of different shows. We do ours sort of like a radio show, right? We do ours with the updates and as Sunday and Saturday are our special shows. But during the week, we do it like a radio show and we kind of have guests in and do our thing, where other shows have commentary, they have fun. There's just a lot of different variety out there. We got people from the United Kingdom on, we got people from down south on, even a show from Texas. So they're all different and they're all fun to watch. So and here's another comment from, maybe you know this person, Jack. Maybe you don't even know this person. So Crystal says she read you years ago.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, listen, sometimes you wonder who reads the things you write. But that there are people out there. It's appreciated. I'm feeling important today now. Feeling important.
Jack, you've been writing very popular for decades, Jack. Now, I mean, you write for the biggest paper. Now they're online also in the world when it comes to boxing. So you're always humble, and I like that about you because you don't like to brag too much. But for all of you out there, Jack is being inducted into the New York Boxing Hall of Fame.
New York State.
That should go without being said.
Mac, you were going to say New York City. I wanted to expand it. I'm a modest guy, but New York State.
And he will soon be in the National Boxing Hall of Fame. You mark my words. Anyway, Jack, let's get back to this week in sports. And I kind of want to follow up on what Robert said and what we were talking about, right? So the March Madness, without the big teams, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, North Carolina, they weren't in the tournament this year. And I think this has something to do with the tournament being bigger than the teams. I mean, the excitement is still there, even with COVID, Jack. I mean, this is a major tournament that shows that no matter who's in it, I don't care if it's, Indiana Community College. If they get in that tournament, people are going to watch because of the tournament. It's something that's pretty much besides maybe the NFL, and I think it's even more so than the NFL, where people get excited about just the tournament.
I mean, the tournament's obviously bigger than the team. There's a carryover effect sport to sport. Baylor's playing tomorrow night, and Baylor is known as a football power, but now they're playing in the NCAA final. But we know the name of Baylor as being really Magic, okay? And a Magic name in college sports. Listen, RG3 won the Heisman Trophy, as Baylor's quarterback there. So there's a carryover effect. Let's say Duke wound up being in the football playoffs. I mean, that would be fine to carry over. They would have to carry over from basketball. Baylor's having to carry over from football. We also like the idea of a Cinderella team maybe emerging out of nowhere. This year in football, Indiana and Cincinnati, who were never football powers, they were fringe top 10 contenders this year. And we enjoy stuff like that. We enjoy storylines. Tomorrow night, the storyline is going to be, is Gonzaga finally going to get over the top? Or as, Baylor, the same thing with Baylor, but especially Gonzaga, because they're the unbeaten team. People love perfection. They love a team that can run the table and not lose a game. And especially it comes so close and you're getting to the finals and you're one game away from perfection. That's exciting. I mean, the last time we had it in sports like this, I guess, was correct me if I'm wrong, in the Super Bowl with New England and the Giants. Can they finish the job? That's the question. Can Gonzaga finish the job? And it's going to be a hard job to finish because they're really meeting a great Baylor team.
Well, what I mean, Jack, is, yeah, Gonzaga's a good story. Baylor's a good story. Houston was a good story. So was UCLA. But what I mean to say here is that it doesn't matter who's in there. The tournament is the story. The tournament is a story. People bet on it. There's brackets every year. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't see in the college football arena, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson now, and there's going to be some other team. We know already next year pretty much who's going to be in the championship. March Madness, you just don't. The NFL, to a point, some wild card team, goes and catches fire, but not a lot. Normally, it's the favorites that win that thing. Kansas City got there, Tampa Bay. They were both favorites. In March Madness, there's no big teams like the Dukes, like the powerhouses that you would say, okay, if they get in, they're going to win. They weren't in there this year. And March Madness, Jack, is the story. It's not Baylor. It's not Gonzaga. March Madness is what I'm saying.
Let me tell you one story that we neglected to mention with this March Madness, the NCAA tournament, and it's a big story. Roy Williams is retiring as as after 33 years as North Carolina head coach, coached Kansas for all those years. And Roy Williams, legendary coach, he won 3 NCAA titles with North Carolina, got to a number of Final Fours with Kansas, and he was Dean Smith's assistant at North Carolina. And when Dean Smith stepped down, he wanted Roy Williams to take over for him, but Roy Williams didn't leave Kansas the first time. But then years later, when he was asked for a second time, he felt he couldn't say no to Dean Smith. So he came on board, 33 years head coach. And even though anything could happen in March Madness, Roy Williams this past season, his North Carolina team got eliminated in the first game of the tournament. That hadn't happened before, okay, to him. And so certain teams, are going to advance. They're not going to – I know anything can happen, but those great Duke teams under Coach K, they were going to get to at least the Sweet 16, the Elegant Eight, probably a good chance at the Final Four. So, certain teams, it's a bit predictable in the first round when you get a real powerhouse against a lesser team. But you're right, Mac. I agree 100%. Every tournament, okay, every single tournament, there's a surprise. There's something that shocks us, okay? Yeah. This year it could have been Aura Roberts, who shocked us early in the tournament. But there's always someone who's, least expected that springs a surprise.
And I agree with Carlos about the name recognition. I want to see the 2 best teams play. I want to see the best teams in the country going at it, not the name recognition. And one more thing from Crystal for you. Do you remember Chaminade, Jack?
I can't even say Chaminade. What is Chaminade? I thought that was like a type of food. Is that a town or what?
I don't know, Jack. You got a.
I don't know. It's a mystery to me. Chaminade.
Okay. All right. So and let's get back.
I think that might be a case of mistaken identity here.
She said she read you for years.
But listen, with all the compliments coming in, I'm hoping it's accurate. Yeah. I mean, otherwise, there's another great writer out there.
Yeah, it could be, Jack. Okay. So let's go back again to opening day, right? Again, it's pretty predictable to me. We see what happened in the off season. And we see what happened last year. And, of course, that's how we form our judgments. There is going to be a team that's going to shock people, I guarantee you, by the end of the year that are going to be in the playoffs and nobody thought would be. But we know that the Dodgers, San Diego, and Atlanta are probably the top 3 teams in the National League anyway. So we pretty much know that. I mean, Florida might make a run at it. Who knows? Somebody from the Eastern Division or Central might make a run at it.
You're leaving the Mets out, Mac. You're not even putting them in that company.
Well, yeah, they could, right? They possibly, if their pitching's good, they got a good shot as anybody. But we know pretty much the top 3 teams. And in the American League, we pretty much know that the Yankees on paper are probably the most talented. That's not taking nothing away from the Twins or the White Sox or the A's. The A's haven't done too good in the first 2 games.
I'm not sure about that, Mac. I'm really not. I'm not as high on the Yankees as other people. I think when all's said and done, they'll sneak into a playoff spot. I think it's going to be a dogfight for them. I'm picking Toronto to win the division, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens there. I mean, I think that on paper, the Yankees are the clear favorite. And again, the Twins, for some reason, Jack, they always seem to have a good team. But when it comes to the playoffs, especially if they meet the Yankees, I mean, it's like the Red Sox were for a long time. The Yankees always end up beating them.
The Twins have lost 18 playoff games in a row. And I know they say history, it doesn't matter what they did in the past because the players who lost those games aren't playing today. But you become snake bit. The current players hear it. We haven't, as a franchise, won a playoff game in ages. We've lost 18 in a row. You kind of wonder whether they start pressing a little more because of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there has to be a reason. As you say, the players change, the coaches change, the owners don't change, the GMs even change. But like the Ruth curse and the goat curse and the white and the Cubs, the goat was eaten.
The Twins got swept by the Astros last year, and you just keep wondering, are they going to break through finally? But the law of averages that they will. But you wonder whether it gets to be inside their head or not.
I agree with that. So, and we did discuss, at nausea about the politics and Major League Baseball. I don't want to get into that again. Watson, we talked about again. That's becoming a bigger issue now. The 17th game. I think something, Jack. Again, I think too much is something. I don't care how great it is. Becomes too much. By the year 2050, we'll have 50 football games for guys.
I don't think it's too much because you have to understand this. Teams that don't make the playoffs currently are only playing 4 months out of the season: September, October, November, December. Then their season's over. That means 8 months they're not playing meaningful games. Now, exhibition games, I'm not counting them as competitive games. I mean, they're good for the coaches to decide who's going to be on their team, but fans don't really care about exhibition games, the outcome, what happens at all. It's like the same in all sports, NBA preseason. We don't care really about the games. Minor league baseball, we don't really care who wins, loses much at all. But it's 4 months out of 8. Major League Baseball is at least, not counting the playoffs, 6 months out of 12. Football is 4 months out of 12, okay? And the NBA, seems to be going on. Everyone seems to make the playoffs. So they start in the beginning of November, and they're running, till the beginning of June or thereabouts. So you're getting a lot of that. You're getting a couple of months more from the other sports than you are from the NFL. And considering the NFL only plays once a week, I think they want to be in the news a little more. Listen, if the NFL could get away with it, they'd have no pushback from the players' union. They're going to go to a 20-game schedule. I could see that happening at some point. I just hope they don't dilute the playoffs by making it too crazy. I think there's got to be a reward the way there is now for the teams with the best record. The teams with the best records, they get buys, okay? Right. They get buys in the first round, meaning the team with the best overall record, they just have to win 2 games at home to go to the Super Bowl. So there's a big reward for being the best team during the regular season, and I hope it stays that way.
I agree with that 100%, and I really believe that the NBA playoffs, nobody cares until it gets down to the final, to win that division. I don't think anybody cares whether New Orleans and say the Nets go at it. We know pretty much. They could beat the Nets, I guess, if the stars aligned and everything was great in Fantasyland. But we really don't care. We want to see the Nets against the 76ers or the Bucks at the end. The New Orleans fans care, of course. But I think you're right, Jack. I think, and especially when you're going best 4 out of 7, it drags on. And, I think that the NBA and the NHL, to a point too, has made the regular season a lot less important than really it should be. I think it should be the other way around. I think it should be a reward, not that the reward is getting into the playoffs and winning the playoffs. I think that really should be the reward.
Yeah, we could debate that back and forth. In the NBA, listen, the playoff format is fine because some of the weaker teams, they hardly have a prayer of winning the NBA title, but making the playoffs is a big deal for the Knicks, the Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets. They're not going to come out of the East. Let's be honest about it. The chances really are highly, highly unlikely. But you want to be part of the tournament. Look, the NCAA, the beauty of the NCAA tournament is making it for a lot of teams. Now, the Gonzaga and Baylor knew they were going into the tournament. So when they were selected, it wasn't a big thrill. They knew all along they were in the tournament. But some of the other teams waiting for the call, finding out they were in the tournament, it's a big deal to them just to participate.
Yeah, listen, I think maybe the NBA should cut it to 4 teams in each league. Let's have the best teams play the best teams. I mean, we already had the trade deadline. We already had everything. The teams are pretty much who they are. I think top 4 would be plenty, doing the 4 out of 7, plenty of games, plenty of action, and let's reward them.
Mac, you got to come with the times, Mac. I know the way you're thinking in baseball, okay? You're thinking you want an American League pennant winner, National League pennant winner, and just go right into the World Series the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Mac, and if it were up to you, because you work evenings, you'd like the games to be in the day.
Yes.
A 1 o'clock Wednesday World Series game. You and Bob Costas together. You like the idea of kids rushing back from school because they want to catch the World Series game.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Well, kids don't care as much about baseball now as they did then. We're living in a new world. It's the NBA, man, the NFL. That's what the young people like. Guys like you and I, we still love baseball.
Listen, Jack, the reason why the kids don't care is because they can't watch it. I don't care if I can't watch it either. If it's on past my bedtime, why would I care about it? So what you're saying, it may be true, but the reason why they don't watch it is because they can't watch it. So, come on, Jack. You know,
the games are on a lot of them too late.
Definitely.
It's a tough situation. I complained about it, Mac, but it was brought to my attention. I might be being a little selfish because I'm on the East Coast. What about the West Coast fans? I want to see a big game, like a World Series game, start 7, not at 8:15. Start at 7 o'clock so it ends 10:15 or something, where the time is reasonable for people who have to get up to work the next day. But what about the people on the West Coast? A 7:15 start, a 7 o'clock start means it's 4 o'clock where they are.
Right.
Okay, so they're missing part of the game because that's 3-hour time difference. But there has to be like a proper balance. It's funny, the times I'm on Las Vegas, I'm like shook up because it's 10:15 in the morning and I see the NFL games being played and I'm thinking like, what's going on? Is this a replay? Not realizing that it's 1:15 on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast and my game's beginning in the morning.
Yes. But you know, Jack, maybe they could do this. I got a compromise for you. All right. When they have the World Series, they think about the West Coast every other game. So they think about the East Coast one game and still the West Coast could watch it early if they wanted to. And the next game they put on West Coast time and we could stay up and watch it if we want to. At least the kids will be able to watch over here some games of the World Series.
The kids on the West Coast are much better off because the games that would be ending close to midnight on the East Coast are ending a little before 9 o'clock in the evening on the West Coast. They have it better than we have it.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying change it so every other game favors both coasts. How about that? Is that a compromise?
That makes some sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Makes some sense. I don't know, do I agree with it? It makes some sense, Matt. Just because I'm saying it's not ridiculous, don't gloat that you came out with this magnificent idea. I mean, it's something we could think about, okay?
Okay, Jack. So, excuse me. One thing I'm tired of, and this time of year, it starts right after the season's over, and I am sick and tired of mock drafts. I am so over mock drafts. I mean, it turns me off. I see the fan groups. I see Twitter. I see Instagram. I see everyone. It's saturated, Jack. Who the teams are going to pick? Who cares what they think? Who cares what Joe Schmo over in Timbuktu thinks the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, the Raiders are picking in his top 4? I am
there you
so
go again, Mac. Thinking of yourself ahead of the team. Instead of you thinking of what's best for the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, our big draft special we're going to have, which I'd like you to tell everyone about in a moment ago, you're thinking to yourself, the mock drafts build up interest for the draft. I know it's nonsense. I know it changes over and over and over who's picked, where they're going to be picked. But you want to know something? Because of these mock drafts, we're learning more about the players. I mean, I agree, Chris. Mock drafts are stupid, but I still like them. Sometimes people like dumb things, and the mock drafts are dumb, but I still like them because looking at the players. I'm looking at the positions. I'm gaining a little more knowledge. We don't get to see these guys play during the season, Mac. We just don't get to see them play during the season. We hear about them. We see highlights. We see clips. We read about them, and we get a feel for them, who should go where. The mock drafts give us an idea usually where someone's going to go. If a running back is about number 25 on all mock drafts all along, the night of the regular draft, we don't expect to see him go in the top 10. We have an idea who's going to go next. It gives us more enjoyment for the night of the actual draft. And the night of the actual NFL draft is, to me, is one of the more enjoyable sports nights of the year. I like to sit glued to the Northeast Streaming Sports Network and watch to see who gets picked where. Tell us about the special, Mac.
I will. So the night of the draft, as you know, the Northeast Streaming Sports is your personal sports network. We're going to have a lot of guests the 29th on Northeast Streaming Sports. Will be streaming, guys. Check it out, YouTube or the Facebook page. We'll have a person that's going to be live in the room reporting from the draft as it happens. It's going to start at 6 at night. It's going through the whole first round. It's going to be a late night. We'll have a bunch of co-hosts, a bunch of guests, former NFL players, maybe some broadcasters from your favorite teams will be coming in. So we have a lot of guests coming up. You're going to see hosts from other shows on there, and we have somebody live, just like the big corporations without the NFL telling us what to do. We're going to have our own live reporter from the draft room itself. He's going to be there, and he's going to be there live there, and maybe get some interviews for us too. So it's going to be a big night for Northeast Streaming Sports. Me and you will be on that show, Jack. It's going to be a long show. I don't know if you can hold up for 5 hours straight, Jack. Unmute your mic, Jack.
What I don't do on this show, I mean, I act professional at all times. You don't see me eating a snack, a bag of chips, a diet, can of diet soda. I might have it that night, Matt. I'm going to mute my mic while I'm eating my chips, drinking, having my snacks. Let's see. Listen, my Jets go number 2. It was thought-provoking to Jack. You should make a top 10 mock draft. Only if I'm allowed to change it, Carlos, every few days, the way these so-called NFL analysts do. Yes. Yeah, no, it is fun. Carlos, you could send us your mock 10 draft. You've earned the right to do it on this show. But what was my train of thought? I lost it, Mac. Deshaun Watson, right. You made a good point. Or was it Robert Butler? What's Deshaun Watson's value at this very moment? I kind of wonder for 1 second, Mac, if the Jets decided they were willing to give their first-round pick, number 23, not number 2, or just their number 2 pick, just one draft pick, number 2 overall, to the Texans. And the Texans would then draft Zach Wilson. Would it make sense for the Jets to do it now? Because if you wait on Deshaun Watson and he's exonerated, and let's be honest, chances are Deshaun Watson isn't going to be out more than 1 year for whatever reason. If he's guilty of the things he's accused of, there'll be penalties, so on. It's bad what he did, but from what I can gather, it's not going to be beyond a year. His reputation will be stained, obviously, that he's going to have to rebuild. and get some type of redemption, based on awful conduct if found guilty. But the thing about it is it worth it for the Jets? Deshaun Watson for just the number 2 pick to Houston. And Houston, now the Texan organization might be taking pleasure out of Deshaun Watson having these personal difficulties, the way he snubbed them, but they're getting hurt because they could have gotten some great value had they pulled the trigger on this trade immediately. And would you make that deal? Would you give the number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson, in other words? Would you trade Zach Wilson for Deshaun Watson even up right now? That's what it comes up to. Because if you don't do it now, you won't have a chance to do it later.
I wouldn't touch Watson with a 10-foot pole right now, Jack. I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't want to even be associated with Deshaun Watson until everything is cleared. I'd rather listen. I don't need the media. I don't need the circus. I don't need any of that stuff happening, because not only may he get, on the exempt list, which means you're going to be without him anyway, he could get suspended. He could get arrested. I don't want to be. I don't even want to look in his direction right now. If I want another quarterback, I got some big draft picks. If you want a quarterback that's in the NFL right now, go and try and get him. Deshaun Watson right now is a bomb, and I would not go anywhere near him right now, because if this stuff comes up true and you have him on your team, or you made a deal to go get him, you're going to be associated with and it's unfair, but they're going to say that, hey, look at the Jets wanted to go out and get this type of person. It's going to, listen, you've got to be very careful as an organization, not only who you take, but what comes around them. And this right now is a bomb ready to explode. And if it's not true, great. But let me tell you, this is going to be a long time before they get done investigating, Jack. Do you really want to take your second-round pick, a second-round pick that you could use to make the team a lot better? And you got a lot of holes on the Jets.
Well, they're taking a quarterback. They're taking Zach Wilson. So essentially, it would be Zach Wilson for Deshaun Watson.
You don't know that, Jack. You don't know that you would take Zach Wilson.
It's pretty much known at this point that that's the direction that they're going in.
I don't know, Jack. I would not. I'll tell you right now, if they take Zach Wilson, they're fools too. This quarterback class ain't that good. I would not take any of the quarterbacks. Maybe other than Trevor Lawrence, that would be the only one I would take. If I could get Trevor Lawrence, I'd take Trevor Lawrence. But all the rest of these quarterbacks, there's a lot of question marks coming in, and it's not a strong class, Jack. It's not.
Let me tell you what I'm looking at in this Deshaun Watson situation. Deshaun Watson, you would agree, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yes.
Okay, one of the best. Deshaun Watson, despite all this trouble, is going to wind up starting somewhere as soon as he's allowed to play. He's not going to be out of the league. I compare this a little. It's a different situation entirely from Colin Kaepernick. The reason Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job, the teams didn't want the distraction because he would basically be a backup quarterback.
Jack, this is a lot bigger than taking a knee during the game, Jack.
No, this is different, much different.
All right.
Different. I'm not comparing the two situations, what's going on with Deshaun Watson and Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick's thing was a matter of protest. I'm not passing any negative judgment on that at all. But the point I'm trying to make, Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL. If Colin Kaepernick was a quarterback the caliber of Deshaun Watson, you better believe he'd be in the NFL. If that was Patrick Mahomes, who took a knee at the time, if he was the one who started it, Patrick Mahomes, teams would be lining up to have him be their starter regardless. And all the fans who are complaining about that, the fan base who might not have liked it, they'll come around, because if you get him a superstar quarterback, at the end of the day, they're most concerned about winning. Winning quiets everyone down. Deshaun Watson is a superstar type quarterback, close to being the caliber of Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady. When I say close, he's in the ballpark. Let's put it that way, okay? So teams are going to want him regardless, okay? regardless of what went on, as soon as he's allowed to play. Colin Kaepernick, no, because Colin Kaepernick was no longer the impact quarterback that Deshaun Watson is. So I see a bit of hypocrisy there, as far as what goes on. Teams just don't want the fatigue. They don't want the social unrest surrounding their team.
Well,
decisions based on convenience, not on principle.
the reason why I say this, Jack, if this is true, and I'm not saying it is, it may be all false. If it is true, and if it is really 20 women, they're not going to just give him one sentence, Jack. You're possibly going to give him 20 sentences if this is all true.
These are civil suits.
I'm talking about legal, Jack. Their illegal complaint has been filed. They're going to look into this now. So if a legal complaint has been filed, they're going to call all these women as witnesses. It's going to be a legal trial now. And once they call all these women as witnesses, you don't think they're all going to file complaints? So what I'm saying, Jack, is that we don't know. This could potentially be a bomb. I'm not talking about protests out the stadium. I'm talking about for the team. The team that goes after Watson right now, even if it's for a low draft pick, even if it's for our second-round draft pick,
yeah,
you may be getting something that is bigger than what you imagine. The possibilities here are huge. If this is true, I'm gonna say it is. But if it is, and who knows, this guy may be going away for a long time. So I would not right now, until it's cleared up, I would not make a bet on Watson right now. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you to a large point, because inside the locker room, when reporters are talking, would be talking to Watson about the team, they'd be talking about other issues. But let me throw this by you. What happens if you didn't have to give up your elite draft choices? You could get Watson very cheap. Let's say they just gave Watson to the Jets. Just gave him, said, look, we're trading him to you for a 6th-round draft choice, which is practically nothing, in the league.
Now you're just.
And now Watson's coming to us for nothing. You would grab a Mac, and then you'd figure, look, we'll deal with it later on. We didn't have to give up our prime draft choices. We're not hurting the team at all, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, so, I guess if you were going to give them to me for a bag of donuts, I might take them, Jack.
You would take them, and guess what? He would, he'd be a starting quarterback as long as he was allowed to play.
It depends. It would all depend. Okay, so it doesn't look like Anthony's going to make it. Sorry, folks. He was scheduled to come in, and unless he comes in a little bit later, which if he does, we'll bring him right up. So the stuff I was going to go over with Anthony, Jack, we're going to do right after we come back from this commercial break. A lot of interesting stuff about the NFL, and me and you are just as experts as he is in this stuff. So we'll be right back after this, folks. Please stay tuned as the Mac and Jack show starts winding down into its last half hour. A lot of important stuff coming up, folks. So please stick with us.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Sim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer, and has a big fan out there now, which I'm glad to see because he really, truly is real good at what he does, and he really adds a lot to the show. That's why he's my co-host, or he wouldn't be here. So we're glad of that. Let's take care of a quick couple things here, Jack. We do have a website on Northeast Streaming Sports, nessp.info, where you can go there and you can check out some of the bios on our guests that come on, the shows that are on Northeast Streaming Sports. There's a couple stores up there that you can click on their link on our website, BSC Breaks being one of them. And like I said, we're on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. Go over there and subscribe when you get a chance. If you want to see us on our Facebook, we're at Max Sports. All you got to do is like that, and you'll get our shows live. We're also shared the Northeast Streaming Sports network page, Facebook, and of course, we're on a YouTube channel. And Zodiac's our new partner over there, Jack. Instagram, Twitter, and as I said before, if you can't get to the screen and watch us, you can listen to us at work or in the car. We are on all major audio. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeart, iTunes, Pandora. So we're everywhere. If you can't see us, you can hear us, and maybe in some cases you don't want to look at us, but we're there for you wherever you are. And we do have a new partnership with Zoe.
Now we got to do one day, Mac, a telethon, 24 hours straight, you and I. You know, we take a little break now and then. You know, you don't sleep, so you could last the 24. I would need to catch, a couple of naps along the way. 24 hours straight talking sports.
Yeah, Jack, that would be interesting, and I don't see that coming too soon. But it would be interesting for sure. Normally during this segment on Sunday, as I said, we do have fantasy football expert. If you tuned in to see him, he didn't get back with me. I don't know what happened there, but hopefully he'll be back on next week. But me and Jack, we can cover this just as well as anybody. And I want to talk about the Jaguars for a minute, right? They got an important pick coming up in the first round, and everybody says they're going to go with Trevor Lawrence. I happen to believe that. But I took a look back, Jack, at the Jaguars as they were drafting. And these were their picks since 2011, right? They picked up quarterback Blair Gabbert. He's no longer with the team. Wide receiver Justin Blackman. He's no longer with the team. Blake Bortles, of course, is no longer with the team. A good defensive end, Dante Fowler, is gone. The only one left over there is cornerback Jalen Ramsey. Leonard Fournette, of course, he went and joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So
Jalen Ramsey's with the Rams.
Okay, so he left too. So, I mean, you were correct. So he left there too. So every major pick that they've had, top 10 pick since 2011, have left the organizations. So this tells me two things. One, the organization is not an appealing place to play at, right? They had a lot of problems there with Tom Coughlin, and then they had a lot of problems with the coaching staff. And that's even after Coughlin. And two, they don't know how to develop players, Jack. And if you think about it, every high school American that goes to the college level, only 3% get scholarships. And only 2% of the greatest players, because you got to have talent to go to college and play there, only 2% of those get drafted, not counting the tryouts. So a very minute, you're talking thousands and thousands of college players. Only 2% get drafted. So you're taking the best of the best. They have to have some talent. And why there's busts is not just because the player all of a sudden stinks. It's because he can't adapt to the pro level. And this takes two things, Shaq. Well, three things, really. It takes physically to be able to adapt to a bigger, faster game. It takes a mental aspect to be able to study the playbooks and the positions that you've got to learn and these different strategies. And three, you need emotional support, which means that you could take a player who sometimes you got to yell at and some players you don't yell at. And the best coaches and the best systems know how to push those buttons. And Bill Parcells was probably one of the greatest at it. He knew who to yell at and who not to yell at.
Well, let me tell you, Jacksonville hasn't been the doormat that you're indicating they've been all along. People forget a few years ago when Tom Coughlin came there and took over the football operations, Jacksonville came so close to going to the Super Bowl. They were beating New England in the AFC Championship game. They looked like they were locked to win that game in the second half, and then it just kind of fell apart. As far as the other draft picks, they're going number 1 overall this year. The year they drafted Blake Bortles, their so-called quarterback of the future, he was the number 3 overall pick. I think the situation with the Jacksonville Jaguars is this. If you don't take Trevor Lawrence and he turns out to be the type of quarterback people think he's going to be, you never live that down. Sometimes you nearly have to take a player, and there's such a thing as overthinking a pick. Trevor Lawrence is the obvious number 1 pick. He's the highest rated quarterback in the draft. Now, you can overthink things. Jacksonville needs a quarterback. That's their biggest need. So let's forget about who's the best player per position. They're not going to go for a wide receiver, defensive back, any other position. They're going for a quarterback. They can overthink things. Urban Meyer, obviously he knows college football, legendary college coach. He knows college talent. You can't expect him to overthink things and think, wow, I like Justin Fields. I've had a relationship with Justin Fields. I helped recruit him to Ohio State. So let's take Justin Fields with the number 1 overall pick. That's not going to happen. It could happen because the 49ers go number 3. They could flip-flop something, a flip-flop with the Jets at number 2. But it's not happening. They've made it clear they're taking Trevor Lawrence because if Trevor Lawrence, like I said, turns out to be a great quarterback, you never live it down. You absolutely don't. The franchise takes a hit that's going to last an additional decade at least.
Well, let's say Trevor Lawrence turns out to be the opposite. Say he's a total bust. Say for some reason he can't adjust the NFL, Jack. Suppose he cannot play at this level mentally or emotionally. Ryan Leaf was was, I don't want to say whack job. He was very insecure and very weak when it came emotionally. What happens if they pick Trevor Lawrence and he turns out to be a bust?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Great example. Ryan Leaf was picked by the San Diego Chargers, the number 2 overall pick in the draft. He was the obvious pick. The Chargers had to pick him. No one criticized the Chargers for picking Ryan Leaf. Who else were they going to pick? He was obvious. It didn't work out. No one is upset now. At the Indianapolis Colts, who went number 1, they were going back and forth between Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. Had they taken Ryan Leaf, he turned out to be a bust. And the San Diego Chargers took Peyton Manning, and he turned out to be the Peyton Manning we knew. Indianapolis never would have lived it down. Look at the NBA draft. The year Michael Jordan went number 3 overall. The Portland Trailblazer organization had a hard time living it down, taking Sam Bowie at number 2 ahead of Jordan. But the Houston Rockets, they didn't get any grief over. They took Hakeem Olajuwon, number 1. He was from their hometown, the University of Houston. He was a consensus number 1 pick. So even though Jordan turned out to be a little bit the greater player than Olajuwon, no one in Houston saying, oh, had we taken Michael Jordan. But you better believe they're saying it in Portland.
Well, let's get back to the original question. If all these players aren't with Jacksonville right now, there has to be something wrong there. And as I said, anybody that makes it to the NFL has talent. There's no doubt about that. Why do some teams have an easier time developing that talent than others? And this is where Jacksonville has been having problems. I mean, yeah, they almost went to the Super Bowl. But these they were top 10 picks, Jack. They weren't a top 10 pick, and these are supposed to be the best of the best. Do you think that maybe the reason why they didn't stick around down there wasn't because, of one thing? Maybe it was because they didn't know how to develop the talent they had.
No, it was a terrible culture over there. Tom Coughlin, when he first came to the New York Giants as a head coach, there were a lot of problems. But then they won a couple of Super Bowls. The players got used to his ways. He went to Jacksonville, and in the beginning, he mentored the coach, Doug Marrone. They were successful. And keep in mind, it was Tom Coughlin's second stop at Jacksonville. He'd been there as a coach previously, and they were successful. So he was brought back. But then it poisoned. The team just wasn't playing well. Blake Bortles wasn't developing into the type of quarterback, they hoped he would be. And now he's just a backup in the league. And players wanted out. The atmosphere became toxic, okay? But now they brought in Urban Meyer. Supposedly there's a new culture. What kind of start Urban Meyer got off to? Hiring a strength and conditioning coach who they had to let go, who had some issues in dealing with players. I mean, that was a mistake there. He should have run it by the players first. If you're going to hire a coach with a controversial background, I know, Mac, you might think, well, the players just got to adjust to him. He's the coach, case closed. No. If he has a controversial background of treating players a certain way, you get those players together and say, are you uncomfortable around them? Are you going to feel uncomfortable? Because if you do, I'm not hiring them. You got to meet him, spend the day with him. And if you don't want him as your coach, he's not going to be a coach. I'm letting you guys make the decision.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. What leads to the bigger question is where a lot of good college coaches, including one of the greatest of all time, the head coach of Alabama, goes up to the pros. Yeah, I mean, will Urban Meyer be a good NFL coach? It's a total different game.
Totally different, and I'm not optimistic. I'm not. If you look at the history of college coaches, I mean, they're great at college. Lou Holtz comes to the Jets. He's pretty mediocre. Nick Saban comes to the Miami Dolphins. He wasn't successful. Listen, Jimmy Johnson, I thought he had obviously great success at Dallas. He was there 5 years. They won the Super Bowl in the last 2, but then he went to Miami to take over for Don Shula, and Miami was a playoff team when he took over. Jimmy Johnson didn't improve the Dolphins. They made the playoffs in 3 of the 4 years, And I think they only won 1 or 2 playoff games under Jimmy Johnson. So they were no more successful under Jimmy Johnson than they are with Don Shula towards the end of Don Shula's career. And Steve Spurrier, great college coach, coached the Redskins and then had the famous line when he couldn't cut it in the NFL. He said, I guess I wasn't as good a coach as I thought I was. It's a different game. I don't think Urban Meyer is going to come and wield his magic and, be this great coach that Jacksonville's hoping for. But you never know. Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe Urban Meyer can do in the NFL what he did in college. And if he can, then it will be quite a hire.
I agree. You mentioned the 49ers moving up to 3. I don't honestly, Jack, I don't see a reason to do that. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has been hurt a lot, and I understand that. So you get somebody else to fill in. But to move up and take one of these quarterbacks, I honestly don't see a quarterback besides maybe Trevor Lawrence that's going to be a superstar. I mean, you knew when Marino came in, Kelly with his prowess, you knew Elway, you kind of knew with Eli, Ben, and Rivers, you knew these 3 quarterbacks were going to be good. I don't see it here. I see maybe Trevor Lawrence, and that's it.
I'm going to tell you, to move up from number 12 to number 3, the 49ers gave up for the next couple of years 2 number 1 draft choices and a number 3. That's a heavy price to move from 12 to 3. But now the talk is their coach, Kyle Shanahan, and their GM, John Lynch, aren't on the same page who to pick. Did these guys have a plan who they're picking? Because they have to know the direction the Jets are going. And basically, it's, the pickings are slim who they're going to get there. Are they sold on Mac Jones or not? The scouts don't think Mac Jones from Alabama is worth going all the way down to number 3 for. Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Justin Fields reportedly, his stock is slipping. And they may have gotten one of those guys at number 12 anyway.
Yeah.
You don't know. And they have Jimmy Garoppolo, and you just wonder, but if they were going to make that move, you would think the coach and the GM would be on the same page who they want. But John Lynch, the GM, is going to have the final say. But, we'll see how it plays out. But Jimmy Garoppolo has been hurt. That's what his problem is, okay? He's been hurt all along. And if Jimmy Garoppolo can stay healthy, he's as good as anyone that they're going to draft.
I agree. And Crystal brings up a pretty good point. She said, I said the same about Justin Herbert. Crystal, I did.
Yeah, well, Justin Herbert went number 6 overall in the draft. He went 1 spot behind Tua. And I hate the hypocrisy of other people who's now saying, well, the Dolphins should have taken Herbert ahead of Tua. They could have had Justin Herbert. Come on. If Tua wasn't injury prone, everyone was talking about him going number 1 overall. All over Florida last NFL season, the year before last. All we heard was tanking for Tua. Should the Dolphins just lose games, they'd be guaranteed of getting Tua. I mean, they forget Justin Herbert wasn't even going to start last year. The coach, Anthony Lynn, was going to have him hold a clipboard for a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, Jack, Herbert, to me, reminded me a lot of Ben Roethlisberger. I watched him in college. I watched his games. I thought he was going to be good. I thought he was a top 3 quarterback there. I thought it was easily Tua, Burrows, and Herbert. I thought either one of them would have been a good pick. It kind of reminded me again of the class of '83 or Eli's class with Ben and with Rivers. They all 3, to me, look like they had very good potential to be starting quarterbacks. I don't see
that's the order that they went in. That those were the top 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't see it this year. I really don't. I don't see a second, third quarterback that could be a superstar anyway in the NFL. So, folks, Well, we're coming to the end of our show. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the comments. This is your sports network, guys. So we encourage the comments, questions, anything you say. We'll try to get them up for you. You bring up a lot of valid points and good questions and good comments. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Wednesday, folks. We kind of get ourselves together, get our show ready for the week. There's other stuff, production, blah, 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 that you really aren't interested in, I know. But this is why we take a couple days off. Otherwise, if it was up to Jack, we'd be on 7 days a week, and I got too much to do as far as the show goes. So
maybe we can go on later, Mac, an emergency show. You know, they call an emergency show out of nowhere. All of a sudden, we're on the air.
we might be able to do that, Jack. We'll work on it. Again, folks, thank you. Enjoy Easter. Happy Easter, everyone. And we'll see you Wednesday, 8 to 10 a.m. live here on the Mac and Jack Show. Have a great day, everybody.